Remember Jurassic Park? Well, we're a lot closer to it than you might think. One company, Colossal Biosciences, just raised $500 million to bring these species back. That's right, $500 million to revive the dodo. Why are investors pouring money into this? And what does it mean for science, the environment, and maybe even humanity? I'm not just any outsider looking in. I work in venture capital, which means I talk to founders who are raising millions to solve big ideas all the time. And in this interview with Colossal CEO Ben Lamb, I wanted to understand, is this bold science, or is this just Jurassic Park, but with a better pitch deck?
Remarkable scientific breakthrough.
Colossal Biosciences says it brought the extinct direwolf back to life.
Colossal's goal is to make extinction a thing of the past.
In this video, we're going to unpack 4 big questions. First, how do you actually bring extinct animals back from the dead? Why are investors pouring millions and millions of dollars into this company? What are the critics afraid of? And if they actually succeed, what type of future are we stepping into? Okay, so quick spoiler. They won't hatch a T-Rex in your lifetime, but I had to ask anyways.
Well, I definitely, so we're not working on dinosaurs, but we get that question. That's the number one request is dinosaurs. And then we get a bunch of other weird shit. But yeah, so Colossal is the world's first de-extinction and species preservation company. We are working to kind of do 2 things. One, bring back extinct species, as well as build technologies that can be monetized for human healthcare, as well as, you know, anything that we do that has an application to conservation, we just open source and give to the world for free.
So if not dinosaurs, then what? Well, mammoths, dodos, and Tasmanian tigers is what the company is starting with. But how? Well, it all comes down to a gene editing tool called CRISPR-Cas9. Something that most scientists refer to as molecular scissors. Imagine cutting DNA at one precise spot, swapping in a new piece, and then pasting the strand back together.
When we started, I mean, like in reality at the beginning, like the business plan was pretty shitty. It was like, we're pretty sure that we'll make money somewhere if we can pull this off, right? Like that was kind of like, honestly, the plan.
So here's the truth. Most companies cannot walk into a boardroom full of VCs and say, our business plan is pretty shitty, but trust us. But Colossal could. And there are 3 main reasons why.
And I met my co-founder, George Church, who is the father of synthetic biology. He's the head of genetics at Harvard. And he had this vision that we could bring back mammoths, reintroduce them back into the Arctic, make money from carbon credits, and probably figure out some other stuff to make money on along the way. And, you know, I had said in 1,000 meetings I wanted to do something that was big and, you know, could change the world, but most of my companies have been acquired and then they get like absorbed and, you know, they kind of like go away on some level. And so I thought this was, you know, a pretty interesting path, and if I totally failed, I would just go make software again. I kind of treat all the major tenets of like whatever business I'm building as like a sales function, right? And so it's like, you know, in most things in life, you get in what you put out. And so like, I will put in, you know, like if you want to go get, you know, XYZ press, you have to treat it like a sales function. You've got to like go maintain the relationships, go sell. You know, you're constantly selling. If you're doing the same thing with funding, you know, like I built a pretty big network of institutional capital partners and family offices, you know, and some of them, you know, aren't even in Colossal.
So when you put those pieces together, a world-class scientist, a founder with a track record, and a ready-made investor network, suddenly raising $500 million for the dodo doesn't sound so bad. But here's the catch. Bringing back extinct animals isn't just a cool science project. It's one of the most controversial ideas in biology today.
Yeah, so we announced 3 species, the mammoth, the thylacine or Tasmanian tiger, and the dodo, and those are all in process. And then on the path to the mammoth, we made the woolly mouse, which is objectively one of the cutest things ever. Even people that hate us were like, fuck, it's cute. And so we made the woolly mouse, and then like we announced it at South by, and it went like stupid viral.
Some people see it as planet saving, while others see it as playing God. And nothing shows that tension better than Colossal's most recent viral experiment, the dire wolf.
You made a fucking dire wolf.
Our incredible team made 3 dire wolves so far.
Dire wolf is the first de-extinct species.
We're making history.
And it's broken the internet.
Using genetic engineering, a company called
Colossal
Biosciences.
revive these extinct animals. How
Unreal. Quite remarkable. Mind-boggling.
It was the weirdest times. We kept this secret for like 18 months that we were doing this.
Yeah.
We brought out Time magazine, obviously, the New Yorker, Rolling Stone. We brought like 5 people to like see the dire wolves, right? Because we live in this like generative AI world.
Yeah.
And like it's like anybody could just lie and be like, oh look, it's like I made this on Grok, and it's amazing, right? So we really wanted people to see them and experience them, because if you see pictures of our dire wolves or videos of our dire wolves, or you see the dire wolves in person, they don't look like anything like wolves. Like they look like wolves because they're related to wolves. They're 99.5% wolves, but they look very, very different. And they've got key characteristics like their size, this mane, their shape, their craniofacial. I mean, like, you know, they're over 100 pounds and they're like 9 months old. So they're bigger than wolves grow after 18 months, and they're full, and they're still in a growth. So it's pretty interesting. And so we had this like perfect teed up. We like worked with indigenous people groups. We educated the Department of Interior. We brought all these people out. So we're gonna put it on paper, and then we had all these great relationships that we were gonna call and just say, hey, heads up, we don't want you to be shocked. This is under embargo. We're gonna do this thing tomorrow. We'll do questions, and we're gonna stay up all night on Monday through to Tuesday, so that, because we've had so much press coverage. And, you know, pre-dire wolf, it was like, you know, 96% positive or neutral feedback. It was like, it was stupid for any company. And so we were gonna do that. I was going to the lab. I was getting the shower to go to the lab, and I got a text from someone on a plane saying, holy shit, you made a dire wolf? And I was like, well, that's weird. How does this person know? They broke embargo, and because they were so mad that Time was running a cover story, because we were honest when they said, who else is running? I was like, well, we gave it to Rolling Stone, Time, we give them the list. And so like the website's not live. There's like Latin on the website. Our paper's not published. And all these journalists that we were friends with got really pissed. And so, and then we had done an episode of Rogan, and like Rogan, like we asked him to hold the podcast, which he doesn't, and he did. He's like, everything was timed up. We're gonna get the paper live. We're gonna get all the questions up. We're gonna get our website live with all the Q&A. So that happened. I was just getting blown up on the way to the lab. So everyone that was in the know was mad. And then we just started calling all of the people that we had, you know, relationships with, and they were like super pissed. They're like, we've been covering you for 4 years. You showed us this mouse, and you really had secret dire wolves. And so day one, even with all that drama, was like stupid positive. There were like 14,000 or 12,000 articles, and it was like 90% positive. I was like, oh, it's tracking to what we thought. Great. We answered all the questions. We got indigenous people groups. We made red wolves. We helped conservation. Day two, some of the people that we didn't talk to got really mad, and then they wanted to debate whether we could call it a dire wolf. And then it was funny, even in the articles, they're like, this is magic, and no one's ever done anything like this before, and it's incredible. No one's made this many edits before, but we're mad at you, and you can't call it that. And we've said from day one, this is how we were going to do it. If you think the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park were dinosaurs, then these are dire wolves. And they are not like genetically modified frog birds, right? And so we went through this whole thing, and then like it was super negative in the morning, and then it got positive again. I was like, okay, oh my, we're making it through. Well, then the Department of Interior, I don't know if you know this, but this administration is not universally loved. They put out a statement, and everyone's like, they were endorsed by the Trump administration, so they're automatically evil. And then Rogan dropped, and they're like, they went on Rogan, so they're super evil. And so it then went like back to super negative. And then there was like a cabinet meeting on Wednesday morning where like somebody said like, we don't even need the Endangered Species Act. You could just call Colossal and they'll bring back whatever animal. You don't need to save any animals. And we're like, oh my God. So then our conservation community started yelling at us. So that 72 hours was like ludicrously dumb. But it was a lot of fun. Like looking back on it, it was like an absolute train wreck fun. You know, now it's kind of all normalized. Like it's normalized to be like, I think it's like the last I checked, it was like 74% positive and then 26% mixed, neutral, or negative. We still have haters out there for sure, but it was an interesting 72 hours. I learned a lot.
Colossal has mastered the paradox. A billion-dollar company dressed up like science fiction. It's part conservation, part controversy. And that tension isn't just noise, it's fuel. The outrage, the virality, it's how you keep investors leaning in. That tension is exactly what keeps the money flowing and the headlines coming. And in VC, that mix of audacity and virality and maybe a little bit of controversy, it's not a bug, it's a feature. So the debate is no longer, can Colossal do this? They've already shown that this is possible. What a lot of people are asking is, should they do this? Which brings us to our last question. What happens if they succeed? And what type of future are we walking into?
We will engineer more dire wolves. We actually have a lot of conservation projects going on. Most people just want to talk about de-extinction, but we actually have more conservation projects going on than de-extinction projects. You know, we spend a lot of time on ecological surveys. So like if you go to colossal.com/Mauritius or colossal.com/Tasmania, not to give you homework, we actually go work with like indigenous people groups, private landowners, ecologists, conservationists, rewilding experts. And so, you know, our plan is we do these ecological surveys, we do scientific studies. We've had several papers come out around this, around the mammoth. We've got a couple in the process for the thylacine and the dodo. And so the idea of how you reintroduce a species is not like you make a bunch of them and you just open up the gates and like let them run wild, right? It's a very thoughtful, measured process. So even on our direwolf projects, we spent a lot of time with the team that, and their advisors to the project that did all the wolf rewilding in Yellowstone, right? Which was a very stage-gated process in the 1990s. And so you really have to be very inclusive in your projects as it relates to things like rewilding in the ecosystem. But we spent a lot of time on that. And, you know, some of our rewilding projects will actually take longer than the species was taken to return back to Earth, which is kind of crazy. For me, the biodiversity crisis is the most important thing on the planet. I think it's, you know, I think it's up there with like, you know, curing like, you know, longevity, escape velocity, right? And so I think that, you know, if we live forever, but, or we live on Mars and there's just no plant or animal life because we've killed it all, even if we found, you know, direct carbon capture systems from the air, it's still going to suck. And so I want an ocean with coral, you know, I want rainforest full of life, and I want, you know, squirrels being annoying in my front yard, right? Like I want that world, and I want my family and kid to have that world, right? So that to me is like super important.
Let's be honest, the chance of Colossal succeeding is pretty high. What happens if mammoths roam the Arctic again? The dodos return and Tasmanians stalk the forests. Well, Colossal claims that bringing back the mammoths, for example, could help protect the Arctic ecosystem, the permafrost, and even slow climate change. Dodos and thylacines would boost biodiversity and the ecosystems that we wiped them out of. And the same CRISPR breakthroughs that could bring these animals back might one day cure human diseases. This is what happens when world-class science meets Silicon Valley money. The headlines, the outrage, the hype. It's all part of the strategy. And if Colossal succeeds, they're not just proving that they can bring extinct animals back. They're continuing to show that in today's world, the audacious get funded and the impossible gets built.